All right, you're welcome once again to our lesson today. Our lesson on From Great Minds Pro Tutors. I believe you have seen we are still on the series of Excel functions. Our previous two lessons we have already provided lesson on Excel text functions, Excel numeric functions. Today we are looking at Excel logical functions, what you can commonly call the if statement, Excel logical functions, the family of ifs. So at the end of the lesson today, you are going to learn these various if statements. You learn how to use the if statement. You learn how to use the if and statement, how to also write the IFS ifs condition. That is, if the version of your Excel permits that. You will also learn how to use the if error function and how to use the if and the IFNA function. These 5 functions are what we are going to use to practice logical functions in Excel today. Let us start with if statement. The if statement, in short, all of these statements are used to execute commands in Excel, carry out operations conditionally. For instance, if a score is 35 and another score is 70, you want to determine whether somebody passed or not. All right, whether somebody passed, if that's the exam score, then you want to determine whether the person passed or not. For instance, let's call it status. You can use the if statement simply to say if this score is greater than 60, for instance, you write pass. All right, otherwise you write fail. That's a very simple if statement you can apply. If the score is greater than that, you write pass. For greater than 60, otherwise fail. All right, so what does that mean? If you drag it down, you see that the 70% will now have passed. So how do you use the if statement? That's what I should show you first. You write if you pass a logical test. You can see there, you pass a logical test. That is the condition to be checked. Then you pass the value or the display if the condition is true. Value if condition is true. Value if true. That's the syntax. Syntax means how to do it. Value if true, comma, you pass another value for false. If that condition is false, then what should be displayed? That's what we mean. Value if false. Value if false. That is how to use the if statement. As simple as that. So logical test first, value if it is true, and value if it is false. And that was what we displayed. Let's write it again. We have status. For status, we want to determine if this score now is a pass score or a fail score. So if you put 34, that's the reference there. All right, if it is greater than 60, we're using 60 as a cutoff to check if somebody passed or not. So what do you say? Pass, that is value if it is true, or fail, that's value if it is false. So if the score is not greater than 60, then we have fail. If it is greater than 60, we have pass. So drag the formula right down. All right, so let us add for this person's new scores: 60, 65, 45, 70, 34, and all of that. You see, it changes automatically. That is the effect of functions. So we're going to apply that on our text, our data set that we have here. Let us check for what we use. Let's use quantity. This we will refer to this as quantity or unit. Let's refer to it as unit. I'll give you the link to this data set at the end of the video so that you use it for your practice. All right, this data set will be attached to this video. You can get the link from the YouTube handle there and then use it for your practice, or you can use a similar data set where you can practice the if statement or the conditional statement. So we refer to units as quantity. All right, and then we want to say if the unit that was ordered, this data set about sales, if the unit that was sold for the particular transaction was over 5 pieces, then it is a good sale. All right, if the unit was over 5 pieces, then it was a good sale. All right, so let us add a new column here, column K. Let's say, what do we call it? let's say level. Let's just call it level, all right? Or let's say call it metric. If this unit was more than 5, if it is more than 5, we call it, if it is more than 8, can we have something more than 8? If it is more than 6, let's call it good sale, good sell. If it is less than 4, but is if it is less than 8 but more than 4, let's call it average sell. And if it is less than 4, we call it a normal sell. All right, so let us have that. That means we have 3 conditions. Let us have the first one. If the unit is greater than 8, that's the first one. We just have first initial, we have just only two values. If it is greater than 8, we have greater than 8 will be too much. Let's use greater than 5, 6. Then we have good sale. All right, good sale. Good sales. All right. Else we have normal sale. Normal sales. So we have that. Apply it. So this one is giving us normal sales because the unit is just 2. When you drag it down, you check how it corresponds. How it corresponds. We have here the unit is, we have here the unit is 3, we have normal sale. Here the unit is 8, we have good sales. Another place we have the unit is 8, we have good sales. Here we have a unit of 5 and all of that. So that is how to use the if statement. That's how to remember what we have done. This is the condition. If the unit is greater than 6, we call it good sales. Otherwise, normal sales. All right, that is just one level condition. What of if we have plenty conditions to check? We want to check for good sales, but we have good, let's call it average. All right, average sales. Then we have what do we call it? We have let's say poor sales, and then we have normal sales. Let's have this for status. If we have, okay, let's change this to status. Now we have 4 status to check. Let good sales be, like we said, greater than 6. Let average sales be greater than 4. That means less than 6 but greater than 4. Let poor sales be greater than 2. Poor sales, let's just say greater than, less than 2, and then normal sales be greater than 2. Is that okay? So what I mean is, if this unit sold is greater than 6, then we have it as good sales. If it is less than 6 but greater than 4, we have it as average sales. If it is greater than 2, we call it a normal sale. Otherwise, it becomes what? A poor sale. So let us code that quickly. So we have if, once again, if you click on unit, we say greater than 6 is for good sales. All right, is for good sales. Now instead of you to put comma whatever, we will now put comma for another condition, since we have multi conditions to check. So we have another if. That is the else part of the first if. All right, we have another if. We click on the same reference. What is the next category now? Less than, greater than 4, right? Greater than 4, that is the next category. We call it what? Average sales. Average sales. Then, since we have another condition to still check, we have another if to write. The same reference, we said greater than 2, right? Greater than 2 will be for, what do you call it? Normal sales, right? Normal sales. Then finally, we have poor sales. Remember, see now, this is now where we are putting poor sales as the else part, because that's the last category to check. All right, so what do? Count the brackets according to the number of brackets you open, close them accordingly. Close them accordingly. 1, 2, 3. All right, close them accordingly. That's it. It appears there's a place we wrote an error. Good sales, average sales, normal sales, and poor sales. All right, we have the result. Drag it down. We have it accordingly. So we have poor sales because here now unit is 2. Here unit is 2. Remember, our normal sale is just exactly greater than 2. All right, we have normal sales because unit is 3. Good sales because unit is 8. Average sale because unit is 6. Remember, we said greater than 6 is good sales. Greater than 4, which means between 7 and 6 will be for average sales. Is that okay? 765 will be for average sales. From 4 to 3 will be for normal sales. Is that okay? So that is the logic. That is how to write if statement. Let me clear this again. Let me clear it. Now, let us see if again in terms of grade. So you can apply that, of course. If you have scores and you want to make grades of A, B, C, D, E, and all of that, you can still check that same thing. All right. We have, let's say we have 40, 54, 32, 23, 70, 80. All right. Let us make an if statement that can give us grade. So if this score is greater than 70, right? That's what we learned. Then we have what? Else if the same score is greater than 60, what do we have? We have B. Else if the same score is greater than 50, what do we have? We have C. Else if the same score is greater than 45, right? We have D. All right. Else if the same score is greater than 40, we have E. Otherwise, it's a F. Is that okay? Otherwise, it's F. So count the brackets appropriately and close them. As you are closing the bracket, you see the color will be changing. So when you get to the last one, you see the last color. That's all. All right. So this one is a C score, C grade score. This is accordingly, you have a score, and then we have grade. Is that okay? So that is it. That's it. Now, you have seen the various use of ifs. However, there is also another form of if you can use if your Excel support it. My own Excel here does not support it. You can use ifs. If not for correction purposes, I would have gone to Google Worksheet and used that. All right, so you can actually use, what I did was I had to pause to change my Excel version because I have various versions of Excel in my laptop. All right, so we have another form of if you can use. It's called ifs. So if you don't want to write those various if for multiple conditions, all right, for multiple categories of condition, you can use the ifs function. All right, and then you're gonna see how we use it. Ifs, you see logical test and value if true. This one now you just be putting value if true. Logical test 1. If this, like we said earlier, greater than 70, we said, what is that? Which keyboard is this? We said A. All right. You write the next logical test quickly. This greater than 60. So this is a B. That's a B. As simple as that. You don't need to write multiple ifs. All right, we put again this greater than 50. All right, a C. All right, if again greater than 45, greater than 45. What do we have there? Should be a D. All right, and then this greater than 40 should be a E. All right, and should be a E, and then finally you put the last one, this less than 40. All right, the only difference that in this case now you have to write the last condition. Less than 40, we have a F, and you are closing just one bracket. Is that okay? You are closing just one bracket. I need to use multiple quotation mark for this. I need to use multiple quotation mark for this. All right, so you see that's how it works. That's how it works. Look at the formula there. That's how it works. Let me show you the formula so that you see it very well. Formulas, show formula, show formulas. That's the formula we just wrote now. All right, it's a lot. I believe you have followed. You've seen what we did anyway. Okay, so that's the ifs function. Let me write it another one. Let me write another one. Ifs, click on. Okay, let me just write from here so that when we finish, we drag it down. Ifs, you click on the score greater than 70, we said, then such grade is A. All right, then you click on the same score again, greater than 60, then the grade is B. All right, you click again, greater than 50, then the grade is C. You click again, greater than 45, then the grade is D. All right, you click again, greater than 40, then the grade is E. And finally, you click for the last category, less than now, less than 40, then the grade is F. So just notice the difference that in this case, in using ifs, you have to apply even for the, you have to write the condition for the last category, and you're just closing just one bracket. There's no need for else part for the ifs. Is that okay? That's how to use it. That's how to use it. Let me zoom for you. Okay, it's in a good state. All right, so drag it down. You see the grade as we saw earlier. So you have a choice to use if or ifs, depending on your version of Excel. Version of Excel from 2019 and upward can do ifs, but anything less than 2019 or 2016 cannot do ifs. Is that okay? All right, the next condition, the next if, remember we have if, we have IFNA, we have IFNA, we have IFERROR, and then we have IFNA, IFERROR, if and. Of course, I have illustrated if just now. So the next one we're going to check now is how to use the IFNA. Meanwhile, you should know that NA means a missing value in computing, in analysis, or in IT. When you hear NA, it means a missing value. For instance, if there is nothing here, that is supposed to mean NA. Is that okay? That's supposed to mean NA. You can also introduce NA manually. You can introduce NA manually using the NA function. All right? That is NA. So I will now say, all right, I will now say, I'm writing another one now. This if NA is a way of writing a display value, all right, that would be a value that will be displayed in place of NA. Wherever there is NA, wherever there is a missing value or an error that will make you to have a mistake, a data entry error that will make your function not to work, you can handle it with NA, especially if there are missing values. Is that okay? So for instance, we're going to use if NA to handle it. If NA to handle it. Write this. We have if value if NA. So value if NA, we say not found. All right, not found. That is it. Just what should be displayed if the result should have been NA, right? Not found. But this one, you have 54 because the value is not NA. This one will give us not found. Is that okay? Because the value there is NA. Is that okay? And others will give us the result respectively. If I remove this and leave it as 0, I will not have 0. So that is to tell that 0 is not what? A missing value. Is that okay? So this was how we introduced NA. How we introduce NA. So you have not found. So simply put, the if NA function is used to display display a text or an output where there was supposed to be NA. All right. The next part is if error function. This is very sensitive now. If error function. The if error is used to handle errors. For instance, you did a division of a number. Let's say this number divided by 0 will give you a division error. All right. So if you do if error, if you use if error to do that kind of calculation, this same number divided by 0. All right. So that is the division we have done. Now, what should happen if that is an error? What do we say? Can't divide. All right. Can't divide. Is that okay? Can't divide. So what we now have is can't divide instead of the error we got there. That is what we use if error to achieve. Use if error to program an exception, all right, to code an exception. If that was Python, that's the word we would have used. So instead of having an error result, you do what? You provide a text that should replace the error. Is that okay? That is if error. That is the if error function. What again are we to look at? Okay, if and. The if and function is used to combine conditions, just like we saw with ifs. Those were actually if or. Now we want to do if and. For instance, if I have let's say price, and then I have quantity. I have price and I have quantity. Let's say price is 3, 2, 4, or 5. That's what it is there. Then we have 70, and then 60, and then 55, 56. And then I want to write a condition that depends on these two information, the price and the quantity. What I can use to achieve that is called if and. For instance, if the price is low and the quantity, if the price is less than 4 and the quantity is more than 60, is above 60, or is less than or equal to 60, all right, greater than or equal to 60, we can call it good price. Is that okay? Or good deal. Is that okay? Otherwise, if the price is higher than 3, we call it high price. Is that okay? So let's call it let's call this place comment. Now we have if and. Sorry, you have to open the first bracket for and. What is the first test? This. What do you agree? Let's say if price is greater than 3, all right, and quantity is greater than or equal to, let's say 60, all right, you close the first bracket. That is the first bracket of the AND condition. Then the next thing we're now writing is the output if these two conditions are true. The output if those two conditions together are true. So what should we have now? If price is greater than 3 and quantity is greater than or equal to 60, let's call it a fair deal. Let's call it fair deal. All right, fair deal. Otherwise, let's call it poor deal. Is that okay? Poor deal, something like that. So that is how to use the if and function, where you combine two different values, two different information. You are checking those two information at the same time before you now display the output. Is that okay? That is it. This poor deal. Why? Because we said if price is above 3 and the quantity is greater than or equal to 60, then we should have fair deal, otherwise poor deal. These two conditions were not satisfied. All right, let's see this one. Let's see the next. We have fair deal. Why? Because price is above 3 and the quantity is just exactly 60. Is that okay? Even if this price was 2, this will turn to a poor deal. Reason? Quantity is still satisfied as 60, all right, because we say greater or equal to 60, but the price condition is not met. That is why it turned to a poor deal. So for if and, the two conditions must be satisfied. The two conditions must be satisfied. I believe you learned something in this lesson today. You have seen how to use the if function, the if and function, the All right, so this is the end of this lesson on conditional functions. We have learned how to use the if function together with the ifs. We've seen how to use IFNA to handle missing values and control display. Perhaps we have a missing value. How to use the if error to replace Excel errors with a display value. All right, to replace it with a display value. How to use the if and condition to combine multiple conditions before we have a display. All right, so perhaps you have not seen our previous lessons on Excel functions. You can take a look at these functions that specialize or deals on mathematics or trigonometric function you can use to summarize data, analyze data using numeric functions like the sum if, the count if, average ifs, and all of those functions you can use to analyze data very quickly. We also have other series of functions in our on our channel there. Remember I told you earlier that this channel is going to give you lessons topic by topic. I will not come and tell you, we will not tell you learn Excel in 1 hour. No, you cannot learn Excel in 1 hour. So we're going to give you lessons topic by topic. See you in our next lesson. Our next lesson will be dealing with what we call it, lookup functions. You have heard of H lookup, V lookup, index match, all of those functions. That will be the next lesson we upload on this channel. Look up for it. Thank you.